I wanted to automate making YouTube videos. Instead, I accidentally created a tiny media company run by AI agents. And just like a real company, it became slow, expensive, and slightly confused about what it was supposed to be doing. That was the problem. Now, to be clear, I am not claiming I invented automated YouTube videos. A lot of people are doing this, and plenty of them are doing it better than I am. I'm not a professional editor. I'm not an animator. I'm not even really a coder. I'm building this through natural conversations with AI inside Blueprint App Harness. And that is the part I find interesting, because a few years ago, attempting something like this would have required a production team, a developer, an editor, and a budget I do not have. Now I can sit down, explain what I am trying to accomplish, argue with the AI when it misunderstands me, and gradually turn the conversation into a working system. Not a perfect system, definitely not a finished system, but a real one. And the video you are watching is one of the outputs. I enjoy teaching and sharing what I am building, but I do not want to spend my entire week editing videos. I still need to develop the app, test it, promote it, and somehow stay within my Claude Code token budget. So I started wondering, how much of YouTube production could I automate? Could I talk through an idea with ChatGPT, turn that conversation into a script, and have a system handle most of the production? Narration, images, B-roll, screen recordings, animations, transitions, rendering, all of it. The goal was never to press one button and create the greatest YouTube video ever made. The goal was to keep improving the system until making the next video became cheaper and easier than making the previous one. We already released an earlier version of this experiment. I'll link it below because you can watch it and judge the improvement yourself. That first video was not terrible, but it also looked exactly like an early automated video system. It had concept art, it had B-roll, it had memes, it had screen recordings, it had all the ingredients. The problem was that the ingredients did not always feel directed. Some visuals stayed too long, some changed for no real reason. Sometimes the image technically matched the sentence, but did not actually help explain anything. The system was good at answering, "What can I put on screen?" It was not very good at answering, "What should the viewer be seeing right now?" That is a much harder question. Concept art is fairly straightforward. You describe an idea, send it to an image model, and get a visual back. With a consistent style and a decent prompt, you can create an enormous amount of material through an API. B-roll becomes manageable once you tag it and make it searchable. Memes are easy to collect. Screen recordings can be captured directly from the real app. Narration can be generated through 11 labs. None of this is effortless, but it is achievable. The hard part is combining everything with taste. When should the screen recording take over? When should the viewers see a checklist? When should one word fill the entire screen? When should the video speed up? When should it stop moving for a second and let an idea land? That is directing, and directing is not the same thing as generating assets. Over the weekend, I knew almost nothing about Remotion. I started watching videos, looking through Remotion bits, and taking screenshots of animation treatments I liked. Kinetic typography, animated checklists, split-screen layouts, camera movement over images, transitions, all the little things that make a video feel more intentional. Then I used the workflow I have been using throughout App Harness. I showed the references to GPT, I described what I liked. GPT helped translate the ideas into implementation prompts. Claude built versions in code. Then I reviewed the results and said things like, "No, that looks cheap. The timing is wrong. The screen recording is too small. Why did the text disappear? Stop turning completed checklist items into random check marks." And then we tried again. Reference, prompt, build, review, correction. We repeated that process across roughly 9 examples and several demonstration videos. Within a couple of days, we had a legitimate little animation library. Not world-class, not finished. but dramatically better than where we had started. That part was exciting, and then the whole thing started going off the rails. The animations became the project. Agents were building components. Other agents were reviewing components. Context windows were filling up. Old documents were being mistaken for current plans. We had multiple AI seats involved in work that should eventually require almost none. The system looked busy. It was producing code. It was rendering videos. It was also drifting away from the reason we built any of it. The original idea had been conversation becomes script. Script becomes a visual plan. The visual plan selects from reusable components. The system renders the video, simple. Instead, we had built a box full of Lego bricks and forgotten to build the instructions that tell the system how to assemble them. Every impressive example was still being wired by hand, beat by beat, directly in code. So technically we had reusable components, but we did not yet have a reusable production system. And honestly, this is a pretty good example of what vibe coding is actually like. It is not, I typed one prompt and the AI built my company. It is more like, you explain what you want, the AI builds something adjacent to what you meant, you realize your instructions were incomplete, the AI produces a surprising amount of work. Some of it is excellent, some of it is nonsense. You lose the plot, you stop, you explain the idea again, then you salvage the useful parts and keep moving. That is the real process. This entire project was developed inside Blueprint App Harness. I am not trying to turn this video into an advertisement for it, but the system matters because it lets me work through development conversationally. I can develop an idea with ChatGPT, turn the idea into a clear assignment, send that work to another model, review what came back, challenge it, correct it, preserve the decisions that worked, and restart with fresh context when a session becomes overloaded or confused. That is incredibly powerful for somebody who is not a traditional developer. My contribution is not writing every line of TypeScript. My contribution is knowing what I am trying to make, recognizing when the result is wrong, and continuing the conversation until the system becomes aligned with the idea. That is a real skill, and it is becoming more valuable as the models improve. During this build, newer Claude models in GPT 5.6 arrived, while ChatGPT's new voice experience made the natural back and forth noticeably better. The models still make mistakes, they still lose context, they can still burn thousands of tokens confidently building the wrong thing. But the direction is obvious. The tools are getting more capable, and the distance between having an idea and being able to build something real is shrinking. For non-coders, that is a massive opportunity. When we finally audited the YouTube system, the answer was much smaller than the bureaucracy we had created. Most of the pieces already worked. Narration worked. Concept art generation worked. B-roll and meme retrieval worked. Rendering worked. Publishing worked. The animation components worked. We were missing two important bridges. One script to convert the narration timing into the word level timing required by the animations, and one generic renderer that could read the visual plan and assemble the correct components automatically. That is it. We did not need 10 permanent media agents. We needed one AI to make the creative decisions. Then we needed tools to handle everything repeatable. That became the new rule. If the same operation happens every video, it should become a script or a skill, not another employee in the robot bureaucracy. The better the automation gets, the fewer agents it should require. It is another iteration. There will be awkward moments. Some animation will probably be too fast. Some footage may stay too long. The Blueprint visual style is still developing, and there are undoubtedly people producing better automated videos than this, but that is not really the point. The point is that this was vibe coded by a non-coder through natural conversation. The earlier video showed what the system could do before the animation work. This video shows what changed after a few days of research, building, failure, and realignment. And the next video should be easier than this one. It should use fewer tokens. It should require fewer agents. It should involve less manual intervention. And Ideally, it should also be better. That is the experiment, not whether AI can generate one video. We already know it can. The interesting question is whether a person with an idea can build a system that keeps improving every time it is used. I think the answer is yes. And for vibe coders and non-coders, this might be the best time there has ever been to start trying. That was the end of the original video. What follows is an amendment, added after the fact. I tried to make it in one shot, and the attempt itself exposed several things that still needed fixing. This video exposed a few problems that were bigger than the video itself. At one point, a broken communication loop had agents repeatedly talking to each other without moving the work forward. It burned roughly 10% of my weekly Claude allowance. So we changed the system. We reduced handover context by about 98% using progressive disclosure. We stopped giving every agent its own oversized identity, memory, and documentation trail. Now, the production system uses isolated agents with shared knowledge. They do their work, report to a director, and only communicate through specific delegation or requests for information. We also lowered most Opus agents to low effort and kept the director at medium. The result was faster, cheaper, and in many cases better. Because video animation is a low-risk task, the real risks are wasting tokens, wasting time, and building too much process around simple work. Two app harness tools were especially important. The script tool let me attach feedback directly to moments in the narration. The media review panel let me pause the video and place markers exactly where something needed to change. We will show a lot more of the media review panel and the animation workflow in a future video. During the research and development for this project, I came across a video that I think is genuinely useful, especially for people who are new to vibe coding. It is not from this channel. It is an external video from Alex Finn called The Greatest AI Tool Ever. It gives a much deeper look at using natural voice with codecs and coordinating coding work through conversation. That workflow is very close to what I have been building with App Harness, ChatGPT on the front end, coding agents doing the work, and voice acting as the control layer. I think it is worth watching, so I have linked it at the end of this video. Honestly, if I were getting into vibe coding now, this is probably the route I would try first. The video linked at the end explains that workflow in much more depth. What it shows is very close to the core idea behind App Harness. Talk to ChatGPT, use that conversation to direct coding agents, and keep the work moving through voice instead of constantly translating your intent into formal prompts. This amendment is another test of that same idea. I described what happened to ChatGPT, turned the conversation into a short script, and sent it back through the production system. Less process, fewer agents, lower token burn, better videos. Like the video, subscribe, and watch the linked video next if you want to see what voice-driven coding now looks like.